All right. Hello, everybody. Brandon Jones, Director of Alumni Relations here at Germantown Friends School. Here for our first alumni conversation of 2021. This is a special one for me. I have a couple friends here that I've been fans of for an awful long time. And I get to have a conversation tonight and kind of see where their journey has gone since GFS. But let's go around and have you guys introduce yourselves. We'll just do name, graduation year, what year you came to GFS, and then favorite place on campus. So we'll go with who's on my screen here. Olivia, if you wouldn't mind jumping in first.
Cool. Yep. Excited to be here. My name's Olivia Fiechter. I came to GFS in 5th grade and I graduated in 2014, which seems like forever ago. And yeah, I'm a professional squash player. And my favorite place on campus was probably Hargroves.
That's a good one.
Good spot.
That's a good one. Jesse, I got you next up on my screen here.
Yeah, thanks for organizing this. My name's Jesse Biddle, proud member of class of 2010. I came to GFS in kindergarten. It's pretty much the only school I know. And my favorite spot on campus was the gym, at the risk of sounding like that guy. Just great vibes and some of my best memories in there.
Nice. I'm gonna have to make you go a little further. Which gym in particular?
Oh, like the weight room. The weight
Awesome.
room.
Smith gym.
Yeah,
Wait,
sorry.
okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Weight room underneath the Smith gym.
Love it. Last but not least here, Manolo, jump in for us.
Hi, my name is Manolo Sanchez. I am also a proud member of the 2010 class, classmate of Jesse's. I came to GFS in 4th grade in 2002. And my favorite place on campus, there's two, and one's not really, it's not on main campus proper, but definitely the Smith gym. Along with Jesse, we spent numerous hours down there working out together. It was a lot of fun, but also just, fields and the boys soccer fields, where, some of my fondest memories of GFS and my youth are.
Nice, nice. Well, Manolo, since you mentioned fields, I'm going to go ahead and put you on the spot first. Go ahead if you can remember and recall your favorite GFS sports memory.
There's a lot. I was lucky to have a really good high school career, not only in terms of success on the field, but just the group, the 4 years that I was in high school with, whether, I was the underclassman or I was the upperclassman, the people around me were so awesome. I think I have a 1 and 1A. The championship in 2008 was the school's first in a number of years, and that was so much fun to host a championship game against Shipley, who had dominated the league for so long. To win and then to have people storming the field afterwards was just a blast and something I'll never forget. And I'll also remember that year we played at what is now Springside Chestnut Hill, but used to be called Chestnut Hill Academy, who was a huge rival of ours. And they also were a powerhouse in the Interac, and beating them on their field 1-0. They were so mad that they lost to a friend's school team. And that was really gratifying and rewarding. And that was also the first game where physically things were, people were throwing their bodies around, and I was exposed to a different level of physicality. So it was a lot of fun, and obviously great to beat a rival on their own field.
That's awesome. You mentioned that championship. On this screen, not including myself, we have 11 championship appearances, and too bad we did not have FSL squash because we'd be adding a couple more to that number. 7 league championships, 11 first team all league honors, and 1, sorry to do this to you, Manolo, 1 all league honorable mention. So we could have gone 4-4-4, but something happened there in 9th grade. We won't go into details there, but that's impressive, right?
I want to recount.
I think we need to go there. Jesse, we'll go to you and we'll check out your favorite sports memory. GFS sports memory.
Yeah. So I think it's actually a pretty easy one as a baseball player. I played 4 years of high school baseball, and our 4th year, our senior year, we we were starting 7 or 8 seniors, and we made it to the state finals. And I believe we were the only Friends League team to ever do that, and I think we still are. And so the semifinal game, I can't remember the final game. I don't know what happened, but the semifinal game, we started Josh Goldenberg, who had never started a high school game before, and we were playing the school formerly known as CHA, and we just stuck it to him. I mean, there was nobody that was going to beat us that day. And we played about as well as I have ever seen a GFS team play. And I was just so proud of the guys for showing up in that moment.
That's a great memory. I love the team aspect, and really focusing on, the overall, team accomplishment there. Olivia, so not necessarily a quote unquote team sport in the sense of you're out there with others, you did, however, play tennis for 4 years. And there's a team aspect to that if you're looking at doubles. Go ahead and give us your favorite GFS sports moment, whether it be squash or tennis or anything else that you had going on there.
Yeah, so I was thinking about that one, and I think we won 2 Friends League championships when I was on the tennis team. I remember one year we won comfortably, but I feel like it's always the one that you just win by an inch that are always the most memorable ones. So I forget which year that was, but I think we beat Shipley in the final. And I don't think it was home. I think it was it was away. It was on their courts, and they had a ton of people out there. And I think it came down to the last match. And I just remember that being such an awesome win. And we had lost to them in the regular season, I think. So just always awesome kind of showing up in the postseason and delivering in that big game. So I definitely remember that being an amazing win. And for squash, I mean, yeah, it's tough. We didn't have really the Friends League championship to go after, but I remember we went to high school nationals, and I remember my sophomore year, we were super competitive. I think we were ranked 4 in the country. And yeah, I just remember it wasn't even a particular match, but I just remember everyone just being so all in that season. I mean, we worked super hard because it was always a struggle with court availability at Germantown Cricket Club. So we would have courts like 3 of the 5 days a week, maybe for like 45 minutes. And so we were just going on a ton of runs, doing a ton of gym sessions, and everyone was just working their butt off. And yeah, we just had so much fun doing it. And that definitely was one of my favorite seasons.
Nice. I love that. I love that. You had some really strong teammates that could push you and really challenge you to kind of step your game and take it to the next level. Tell me a little bit about any influential teammates, coaches, members of the community, and how do you think, the GFS experience prepared you for playing at the next level?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's hard to be honest, I'm still really, really close with a lot of the girls that were on the team with me. I mean, I think when I was coming up, Lyles Swift Farley was kind of one of my oldest friends who I knew before I went to GFS. And I remember when I first played up on varsity in 8th grade, I was super intimidated. And I remember her and Teresa Shropshire kind of taking me under their wing and making me feel welcome. I love both of those guys. And then, yeah, having, Carrie Salata, Lydie McKenzie, they were both playing at a really high level on the junior tour as well. And so I feel like we all really pushed each other in practice, and it was awesome to have them around as well. So those are just some names that come to mind. And then in terms of coaches, I think having Adam Hamill as the coach those last few years, I knew him because he had done some stuff with the US junior team, and he was just such an awesome coach and really pushed us physically. But he also was he had that kind of magical balance of like knowing how to push us and make us work hard. But he also just had such a good sense of humor and always kept things kind of light at the same time. So I just think he's an incredible coach. And now he's my boss basically. So yeah, I love Adam. In terms of preparing me for the pro tour, kind of the thing that amazes me about GFS is just how I feel like in general, when I think about what my friends and classmates are doing, everyone is pursuing a passion of theirs. Like I feel like no one really just takes the easy route and, maybe does something because they want to make a lot of money. Like people are doing such interesting things, whether it's they're doing stand-up comedy or they're writing or like, you know, Connor with his dancing. Like people are just doing such cool stuff. That I feel like at other schools that's not necessarily the case. And so I would just say I feel like coming from GFS, it's just the standard is like do what you love and you can be successful. And so even though squash is not the most lucrative sport, I feel like I know at the end of the day, like I love the game and I wanted to see how good I could be. So it didn't really matter what the circumstances were. I was going to go for it. And fortunately, I'm surrounded by people that were willing to support me in that pursuit. But yeah, when I think about what GFS did, they taught me to kind of go after what I want and follow my passion. So
I love that.
yep.
I love that. Those are some good messages there. Jesse, I often take credit for your career because I coached you in ninth grade when you played basketball.
Mhm.
And after that season, it was baseball all the time, right? So I must have did something right to push you off the court.
Yeah.
But you played on that varsity team with a lot of guys who you knew since you guys were almost in diapers. Who were some of those influential teammates, coaches over the years, members of the community that had an influence on you as an athlete? And then, how do you think, being part of that GFS program prepared you for the next level?
That's an interesting question. I mean, first of all, you didn't push me off the court. I stopped growing. I was like 6'5" in eighth grade. So I thought, well, I'm going to be 7'2" and in the NBA. And then I was like, wait, I stopped growing and I'm not fast and I can't really shoot that well. And I can't really dribble that well. So I should probably play baseball. So, but when it comes to GFS, I think the thing that it taught me the most was accountability. I remember having conversations with my teammates when I would go play at in these tournaments with these other schools, and they would be talking about how their school was kind of like bending over backwards to make sure that they didn't have to do homework because they had tournaments and all this stuff. And GFS just kept they made sure that school was still a priority in my life when I didn't want it to be. And that was a lesson that my parents were also teaching me, which is that you have to be able to balance everything and you have to take accountability for the decisions you make. So I learned a lot about time management through that. So, but when it comes to, the people that I met along the way, it's the only school I've ever been to. I didn't go to college, and I went to GFS from K through 12. So everybody I met had an influence on me, and it still has an influence on me. But obviously, my teammates, my baseball teammates, and just my good friends in my class are still my favorite people in the whole world and my best friends, and they will be the groomsmen at my wedding. So GFS, sculpted me for all intents and purposes, and any success I have moving forward is in large part due to them.
Yeah, they become family pretty easily. Manolo, you're back on campus now, and you're, getting to kind of experience, life as a coach, on the GFS campus. Who were some of the coaches that were influential to you? And also I'll add, often players of your caliber in soccer will find club teams and often leave their high school teams behind. Who were some of the players or members of the community that helped you, stay close to the program and stick it out for 4 years?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's a big answer. Like that, you can't kind of do the influence of GFS justice in just a couple minutes or a couple of sentences. But I think for me, when I look back on it, and hindsight is always 20/20, but when I look back on it, one of the biggest things I'm grateful for is I think that I had coaches in Matt Zippin and Brett Turner who were honest, and they weren't always telling me and us and the team what we wanted to hear. And I think that can be difficult sometimes. But when you have a team with talent that sees the situation for what it is, and when you do something poorly and when you play poorly, you know about it and you go to fix it, I think that goes a long way. I think that speaks to a lot of why we had success, was that we were talented, but I don't think we were necessarily more talented than some other schools. But I think that our coaches, like Jesse said earlier, would hold us accountable and wouldn't let us get away with stuff that we could get away with. And I think that played a huge role, and I think that affects me to this day. And I carried that with me through the higher echelons of soccer, in being accountable to myself and always looking in the mirror after a bad season, after a bad game, after a bad practice, and saying, okay, what do you need to do better? And not hiding from that, actually welcoming it, because that's how I knew I was going to get better. So that had a tremendous impact on me mentally. And I think, as Jesse and Olivia will probably tell you, that's where you get, you make it or break it as you go higher. So I have to thank Matt Zippin and Brett Turner for that. The community members, yeah, you bring up a good point. I think different sports kind of, the path is different. When I was playing, and even probably more so now, high school soccer wasn't necessarily the vehicle I was going to use to get to the next level. I came in GFS fourth grade, and there was a point in eighth grade where I considered going to GA. They were the powerhouse high school soccer team. A lot of my buddies from my club team played there. And when I sat down with my parents, I realized that my friends, we had built such a strong community, and I felt so supported. At the end of the day, that's where I wanted to be. And I was going to get fulfillment from soccer outside of school with my club team, and that my community at GFS, my friends, the support I had meant more than going to another high school. And, by the way, not that I knew it at the time, but we ended up beating most of those teams in high school anyway. So I'm not sure the switch would have made much of a difference at all. So I think it was just the strong group of, the strong core of support I had from my friends. And I do have to mention as well that, Jesse was very important for me in high school as well, because I think having to go through something like professional aspirations on your own can be difficult, especially, anything can be difficult when you're the only one walking the path. And I think that having someone like Jesse next to me with the same level of dedication, doing the workouts, skipping social events, making sacrifices, made things a lot easier because I had someone to go through it with, but also pushed me because Jesse was big time in high school, and I wanted to be that big time. So that there was a bit of that competition internally that helped me continue on and continue going, even when I might have rested on my laurels. So, I was very lucky and fortunate to have been exposed to that type of environment and with those people.
Thank you for sharing that. I want to talk a little bit about college now and what the recruitment process was like, and then the decision-making process there. Olivia, you obviously were playing two sports at a high level, and I'm sure you had interest in both. Tell me a little bit about the recruitment process for you, how you decided on squash and choosing Princeton to remain a Tiger for your next 4 years.
So I definitely was not being recruited for tennis, but I'm flattered. But no, no one wanted me on their college tennis team. Yeah, so I think, with how much I was playing squash, it was my favorite sport. I was doing it pretty much all year round, and I definitely knew that that's what I wanted to play and commit my time to in college. So I basically was looking at the top schools with the strongest teams. So I looked at those teams were pretty much like Harvard, Yale, Princeton, and Penn. I knew I didn't really look at Penn just because I kind of wanted to get out of Philly. A lot of GFS kids SCH kids, Penn Charter kids end up going there. I kind of wanted to leave that that group and kind of go outside of the Philadelphia comfort zone. And so, yeah, I visited all 3 schools. The recruiting process starts a bit later than some other sports, so I didn't really start it until my junior spring. But yeah, I did a couple of visits and honestly liked all of them. But I think what it eventually came down to was, and I think this is coming from GFS, like I loved the fact that walking around GFS, you know everyone, you're saying hi to everyone, you know everyone's name. It's just such a tight-knit, intimate community. And I remember visiting Harvard and I remember visiting Yale, and I just didn't feel that same sense of like, I think just because they're bigger schools, I remember it just feeling busier and a little bit more chaotic and not as intimate. And so at Princeton, I felt like I got that intimate feel and that warmth on campus. And also from the alums and the students there that I talked to, they just absolutely loved it. And I feel like when you talk to alums and they're like, I would just give anything to go back, like they were just the best 4 years. The school spirit was, I feel like, just off the charts. And so I was like, all right, I want to be a part of this community. And so that's pretty much what made the decision for me. I also loved the coach there. I'm still extremely close with her, and we just had a great relationship off the bat. I remember our first few chats. I remember being so nervous and having talking points ready for our first few chats, and we ended up just talking for hours. So yeah, I just felt like it was a place where I would feel like I was part of a family. Yeah, and then obviously they had a competitive team. So yeah.
Yeah, and even better that you can stay in Orange and keep that role for 4 years.
Exactly. Go Tigers.
Yeah. Jesse, you referenced the fact that GFS was the only school you were able to attend, but that almost wasn't the case. You had an opportunity to choose a college, and it turned out to be Oregon. Tell us a little bit about, what was the recruitment process like? What was that decision-making process? And what pushed you to go pro?
Yeah, so when I started getting recruited by colleges, I realized that they were all making the same pitch, pun intended, I guess, pun unintended. And like I was just like, okay, all these teams are great, all these places are great, all these coaches know what they're doing. So let's like remove that and just say, where do I want to go? And I was like, my older brother was in college in Portland, Oregon at Reed College, word to Reed. And my dad had went there when he went to college. And so I was just like, I want to go west. I didn't know where exactly, but I just wanted to go west. And so I reached out to all of what was the Pac-10 at the time, all those schools, and was just like, I'm going to pitch in this tournament in Arizona. If you guys want to see me, come see me. They all came to see me. And, I went in, got recruited by a few of them. And the thing I liked about Oregon was not like everybody thinks it's the gear or the Nike, whatever. But it was that they were just building a program. I was the second recruiting class. They had just reinstated baseball. And I loved that. I wanted to be a part of something new. I wanted to be a part of building a culture and building a foundation. Winning wasn't truthfully the most important thing to me. I just wanted to be somewhere that really was going to care about the little things. And that's why I committed to go there. My senior year of high school, they asked me to get my GED and enroll a year early. And I almost did it. I had a very long conversation with my parents. But we decided you don't go kindergarten through 11 and a half grades at GFS just to leave and get your GED and not graduate with your best friends in the whole world who've known your whole life. So it came down to the wire, and I ended up staying at GFS, which was the best decision I ever made. But yeah, that's kind of the brief process that I went through.
That's neat. I didn't know that story, and I was in the athletics department at that time. Shows how much I
sprung it on you.
Yeah.
No, I would have hit you with that.
Yeah, you were holding that story in just for this moment.
Yeah, no problem.
So Manolo, you also had an interesting kind of recruitment and decision-making process. And then you had a little change of fate or change of heart, or I should say another opportunity presented itself after you left GFS. Tell us a little bit about kind of how you, made your choice and where you ended up long-term.
Yeah, so I was getting recruited. Truthfully, it started my sophomore year. It starts lightly in my freshman year where I'm allowed to email coaches and they can't respond, but I can say I'm playing in this tournament, that tournament. Sophomore year really, really picked up. Junior year, you're allowed to have phone calls. So I was looking at several schools between the ACC and Big Ten, or what was formerly known as the Big Ten. It came down to a big part of it was scholarship offer, especially at certain schools where the tuition was large, but also just in terms of like, this is the commitment the coach is making to me and where I feel like I'm going to be invested in the most, so to speak. So I ended up going to the University of Louisville. It was actually the last visit I took. I did not expect to like it at all. I didn't know anything about Kentucky nor the city of Louisville. I had my heart set on, it was between Georgetown and West Virginia, and I was pretty convinced I was going to go to West Virginia. I took the trip to Louisville, Kentucky. It was a fantastic trip, and I really liked everything about it, and I decided to commit to Louisville the spring of my junior year. And it didn't go as smoothly as I had hoped. I chose a school that was going to have a lot of exposure. Louisville, I think, finished the season in the top 10 the year before I got there. So I thought, this is a team with this got a lot of exposure. They're in the top ranking and all that, but they still had a need for my position and were hoping to bring me in and I would be able to contribute right away. And it didn't happen. I wasn't quite ready. Truth be told, I had a lot of expectation for myself. I wanted to, be, freshman of the year and blah, blah, blah. And I wasn't ready for a number of reasons. So I redshirted my freshman year. And for those of you who don't know what a redshirt is athletically, I didn't play in any competition. So I practiced the whole year, didn't play in one game. It was a real shot to the confidence after amassing the youth career that I had amassed and put together. But you lose that year of eligibility. So I still had, after my freshman year, I still had 4 more years, 4 more falls to play. So the next fall, I have a really good summer. I come in really good shape. Freshman year, doing really well in preseason. And then I pulled my hamstring 3 times in 3 months. And that, the college season is short. It set me back a really long while. I only made played in 2 or 3 games that year. And I ended up essentially getting benched for the rest of the year after I did come back healthy. I kind of took a step away from the team at the end of the season, reassessed everything without going into too much detail, and decided that the best thing for me to do was to transfer and to start somewhere where I could have a brand new opportunity like you so appropriately put. What I also would hope a transfer would do was that it would light a sense of urgency under myself and light a fire under myself to know that this is really my last chance if I wanted to achieve a pro dream. So I would throw everything I had into this next program that I was going and take absolutely no risks and no chances in terms of what I was going to do to get myself to the next level. And I ended up deciding on Clemson University. The coach was in his second year and he had recruited me when he was at Brown. But Ivy Leagues couldn't offer an athletic scholarship, so I struck Brown from my list. But it came full circle, and he too was trying to turn a program around, a program that was struggling for a number of years. And so I went there to the ACC, which is the best soccer conference in the country, but it was one of the worst teams in the league. So I went there. I had that was the opportunity, and coach was, when I spoke with him, he was honest. He was transparent. He
I think we're losing you there for a second. Okay.
Did he cut out
Yeah,
for you
we're
guys?
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, keep going. Can you still there, Manolo?
Can you hear me?
Okay, now I can hear you.
I think my wife got a call and my headphones connected to that. So I apologize.
No problem.
But I'll try and figure it out so that there's not too much going on in the background. But anyway, I felt that Clemson was the right fit for me. I really liked the coach. I really liked the position that the program was in, and it was just a good opportunity for me, and it actually ended up working just about as perfectly as I had hoped. So that's kind of my process. It wasn't easy. Transferring was very, very difficult because I built a lot of friends, and I really genuinely liked the guys at Louisville. The situation wasn't great for me. But it was very, very difficult because I also had to admit my faults, but then, kind of, it was a bit embarrassing, to transfer and to say that the perception might have been I wasn't good enough to make it at Louisville, but at the end of the day, it was the right thing for me, and I probably it was the sole decision that turned my career in college around for sure.
Nice. Thank you for that. Olivia, you are a top 50 squash player in the world, number 32 to be exact. When did you realize that playing pro was a realistic goal? And what was it like being a first-year pro?
Yeah, so I guess I had some coaches and juniors kind of plant the seed early on, just saying like, if you wanted to go pro, you should consider it. You could do it. You could do well. But to be honest, I felt like in high school, I worked hard, but I definitely, was focusing on my academics. I felt like I had the balance between that and a social life. Like I wasn't ready to like fully commit to the idea of going pro. I wasn't 100% set on it yet. And not many Americans have gone pro in the past in squash. And so there were two older girls that are still on the tour now that had gone pro. But one of them hadn't gone to college, and one was, number one junior in the world. And I feel like for both of them, it was a no-brainer. But yeah, I mean, it was a hard decision, I would say, because I had so many injuries in college. So for my sophomore and junior year, I had a back injury that no one could really put their finger on. Like doctors had, every doctor had a different opinion. And I was just basically, I was able to play through it, but I was just in constant pain. And so for a while, I didn't think it was going to happen. And then fortunately, the summer before my senior year, I really just like fully dedicated my summer to doing physical therapy and getting to the bottom of it. And fortunately was able to turn it around and get healthy. And my senior year, I had a great season. And yeah, I think people kept asking me my senior year. I'm just like the most undecisive person ever. So throughout my senior year, I remember just being like, I'm going to see how the season goes. I'm going to see how my body holds up. But I feel like it really came down to just having like a couple of people in your corner being like, you're going to regret this if you don't do it. Cause I was constantly like, oh, should I do it? Or like, like, how am I going to make money? How am I going to support myself? Cause it's tough when you get going. And obviously there's always that fear of like, am I gonna be as good as people think I'm going to be? What if I don't actually end up getting the results that I think I could get, when I'm doing it full time? And so there's that fear there. But at the end of the day, I just being healthy and playing at the level I was like, if I am, when I'm 30 or 40, if I don't do this, I'm going to 100% regret it. And so I just, I I remember the coach of the men's team at Princeton. So he was best friends with this guy, Peter Nickel, who was #1 in the world for 5 years, from 96 to 2001. And I actually grew up with a poster of Peter on my wall, which is now his wife says that's super creepy and I should stop telling people that. But so the coach of Princeton, he was just like, I'm going to see my friend Peter tomorrow, because I was figuring out kind of where I was going to train, who was my coach going to be. And he was like, you're coming with me. We're going to get coffee with Peter. And yeah, so I hopped on a train and got a coffee with Peter, and immediately we just hit it off. And I think that's one of the most important things when you're going pro. If you're not like part of a team that you're, drafted to, I guess it's surrounding yourself with that village of people that buy into what you're doing and believe in you, and just kind of figuring out like who you can trust. And immediately from day one, Peter and I just hit it off. And so I think having him in my corner has just been like so critical for any success that I've had. And whether it's on court or just off court emotionally, like talking me through the highs and lows of wins and losses, he's just amazing. And so, yeah, that first year, it's tough. I think, actually, I mean, thinking back, I graduated with pretty much 0 ranking. Like I think I was 170 in the world. But I knew I was playing at a higher standard than that. So the first year was basically just playing events all over the place, just trying to like get points and get my ranking up. So it was almost like there's nowhere to go but up. But I actually found that like my second year on tour, which was cut short by COVID, that was kind of the harder year, because all of a sudden I was in the top 40 now, and the closer you get to the top of the mountain, the harder it gets. And so it's those little changes. It's the 1% that are the hardest gains to make, I think. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now. And so I actually think it's gotten harder the longer I've been in. But yeah, it's just been so important for me to just surround myself with positive, energized people that keep my head in the right place. Cause yeah, it's really easy when, you train 24/7, you only have about maybe 13 or 14 events in a season. And so you only get so many opportunities to really get out there and perform. So one of the toughest things I think is just figuring out how to peak at the right time. And then also just constantly, setting goals to make sure that when you're training, you're not just, I think one of the biggest lessons I learned early on was just, it's like quality over quantity. Like it's not enough to just go work really hard. Like you have to have those goals. Every session has to have a purpose that's so specific to your goals. And so, yeah, learning all of that throughout my first 2 years, it's been a roller coaster, but I mean, I'm learning every single day, and I always have a million things I'm trying to improve on. So I'm waking up with a lot to do, and yeah, hunger to keep getting better. So it's been good.
That's awesome. Jesse, so you commit to Oregon, you have options in front of you. What was the decision like to turn pro? And tell me a little bit about, what draft night was like. You grew up a Phillies fan, you watched them win a World Series championship a few years prior, and then you're drafted by your hometown team. Tell me what draft night is like, and then which one of your family members was the most hype on draft night? You're unmute for me.
The most hype person was easily my personal trainer at the time, Aaron Sistrunk, who is a football coach at CHA and someone I worked out with a lot in high school. And I don't know, he jumped on top of me. It was quite a moment. And he's one of my best friends still. But yeah, it was a decision that was kind of made for me that night. I had said from the beginning, if the Phillies pick me with their first pick, I can't not sign. I think the question has now become, do I regret it? I get asked that a lot because my career wasn't and hasn't exactly like been smooth sailing from start to finish. Like some guys is, but mostly like everybody has their own journey. And mine has just been a little rocky sometimes, a lot of injuries, a lot of setbacks, a lot of lows and a lot of highs. And you know, I don't regret anything. I'm so happy with everything and how it's all worked out, and I couldn't be happier with where I'm at right now. Yeah, you know, that was a pretty amazing night. I was at my uncle's house, who's the biggest Phillies fan in the entire world, and he actually recently just passed away 2 months ago, or a month ago now. And so I've been thinking about that night a lot, and what it meant to my family and I.
Yeah, I can tell, you know, knowing how close you are with your family, your brothers in particular, I'm sure that was you know, a pretty emotional night. And looking back on it, I'm pretty sure that's something you'll never forget. Manolo, so you have this opportunity, right, to go from Louisville to Clemson. You go all in, you know, with soccer and improving your game and proving to yourself that, you know, this was the right decision. Then you have an opportunity to go pro, right? You're drafted, and you have now a new career path, right? A new challenge in front of you. What was that process like, right, as a senior, and when did you know that going pro was a realistic opportunity? Technical difficulties here.
The boys are having trouble.
Yeah, no problem. Keep working on that. I'm gonna jump around because I want to also hear you good?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. For me, I always had professional dreams. I think I can't tell you like there's a moment, but it really went from, man, I love playing soccer, I wish I could do it every day, to like, oh, maybe I could play soccer every day, and then just kind of like slowly continues on that trajectory. I knew I was talented, but you know, honestly, transferring put a big dent in terms of my like, oh, am I good enough? But you know, getting in the right spot and then kind of deciding, making a firm decision in my head that I was gonna, I had no choice. Like, if this is what I well and truly wanted, right? If this is what I had committed to, that I had to, I had no choice. I mean, there's, you know, it's as simple as not, you know, not having a choice, and it was a little bit like being backed into a corner, and I was going to come out swinging. So I did hit the ground running at Clemson, and was determined to kind of make a fist of it and give it everything I had. And I think it really, because I hadn't proven myself at the college level, and obviously that was the next step before pro. That following the spring of 2012, the fall of 2012, I had a really, really good year at Clemson. And that's kind of when I knew, okay, this is real. I had some coaches, or my coaches tell me that some scouts in MLS had spoken highly of me. I was only a sophomore, and I wasn't going to go out until I was a senior, but that's kind of when I knew. And then it was just about, okay, can I get better and better and better each year? You know, my senior year, we win the ACC championship, which hadn't been done at Clemson for quite a while. You know, we entered the NCAA tournament as the 7th seed, and all eyes on us, and just a ton of exposure. I got invited to the MLS Combine, you know, and I got drafted by New York Red Bull. So, you know, I would say that it was kind of after that fall, my first fall at Clemson, when I thought, I've got a real chance here. Which was incredibly exciting. You know, the experience was pretty eye-opening. First year rookie at a team like New York Red Bull, who had just the year before Thierry Henry had retired, one of the most iconic players in world football, like ever, one of the greatest players ever. A guy walks on water essentially. And I, coming to this team, this organization that was very successful and had a reputation of having high profile players. And so it was a place stepping right in where the team was expected to win and perform well, and win an MLS Cup, win a championship. And it was tough, but I think, again, I was lucky to have a locker room in professional and in college. You have different locker rooms, and you'd like to think that every locker room is a good one, but it's not. But that locker room in New York was really, really, really good. It was full of really, really talented guys who were, nothing was above them. None of the little details, none of the hard work was above them. And our best player was our most humble person. So I was lucky in that sense that I was in a good place where I was going to be given a chance. Everything else was a huge shock factor. Physically, the speed and the physicality of the game was a different level. Mentally, probably the most challenging was like you couldn't have 2 out of 5 good practices because you weren't going to make it onto the field. You had to have 5 good practices, then play well in the game, then start over the next week to get your next chance, especially as a rookie. And I think too, the reality, the most challenging things, like even in college, right? It's not your job. And now if I'm playing, I'm, jeopardizing someone else's livelihood. And so there was that ultra heightened competitiveness at that next level that was different, but fun, but definitely fun. And thankfully I was able to adjust to it pretty quickly because it's what I wanted the most. But it was a real shock factor first stepping in. And I'll never forget that first year. I'll never forget. I mean, there's a lot of stories that would keep us here too long, but I'll never forget like the bus ride to the airplane for the first 2 weeks of preseason. I'll never forget. So it was pretty shocking, but pretty incredible all the same.
Nice. Olivia, favorite moment as a pro so far? What would you say that might be for you?
It's a tough one. I mean, probably competitively. My best win, I would say, was when I beat the number 9 in the world. That was definitely a highlight because I think like believing that self-belief, I feel like is one of the toughest things to come by, and stepping on court with a player that's ranked that high. At the time, I think I was 60 or something. So on paper, I shouldn't, be able to touch her, but I felt like it all came together and I just put on a really strong performance, and just coming off court with a win like that, just really, my self-belief, my confidence went up significantly after that match. And just that belief was, that hadn't been there was definitely there after that win. So that I felt like that kind of changed things for me a bit. But kind of off court, I would just say like traveling the world, getting to make, I've made so many friends like that are just all over. Like just a month ago, I spent 2 weeks training in Egypt after a tournament, staying with one of my old teammates and her family. At some of the smaller tournaments, instead of staying in a tournament hotel, you actually stay with like local club members. And so like some of the families I've stayed with now, I stay in touch with, and they're like family, and I've gone back to stay with them over and over again when I go back to play in the same event. And just traveling and getting to meet the most incredible people from all over has just been easily one of the best parts of the job.
Nice. Thanks so much for sharing that. Jesse, so far in your career, what would you say is maybe your favorite sports moment? I know striking out Bryce Harper the first 3 times you faced him might be fun, but what would you say is your top sports moment so far? Oh, you're muted.
Dude, I keep muting myself because I have a tendency to just like breathe into the microphone, which is just rude. And Olivia's telling awesome stories. So I'd say like personally, my favorite moment, the one that I look back at, was tie game in the 8th inning against the Yankees. They call my name. They say we want the Quaker kid from Philly to come in and pitch. It was the 4th of July weekend, and it was, I don't know, 50,000 people all telling me how much I suck as I'm running in there. And I have a good first inning, throw really well, come back in the 9th, still tied. And I get runners on 2nd and 3rd with 1 out. We intentionally walk a hitter, and then I got bases loaded, 1 out, tie game. If that guy scores, game's over. And I got to think about that for the next few days. And I strike the next 2 guys out, and I'll never forget 2 strikes, 2 outs. And I'm standing on the mound, and I just got like my eyes closed. I'm taking a deep breath, and the mound is shaking, like literally shaking, because their people are so loud. And I'm just like, what a cool moment. And then I thought, I am going to strike this dude out. There was not a doubt in my mind. I was like, this guy is really screwed. I feel bad for him. And then I struck him out, and I was just walking on air after that. And then we came back and won the game, and that was a good night. Not all nights are like that, but that was a good one.
Yeah, man, those are the ones you'll never forget. That's awesome. Manolo, you had the chance to play for a few professional teams. What would you say were your favorite moments, or your one, if you can put a finger on it?
Yeah, I think I had a couple. Never forget my first professional goal. It was a special moment. But for me, there was 2. One, I'll never forget the day. I'll never forget the day I got to train with Thierry Henry. He came back to the facility, still heavily involved with the club. He didn't tie his cleats, but he played, and it would really be the same thing as a rookie basketball player, having Michael Jordan come back to practice for you with you for one day. Absolute idol of mine growing up. I had a conversation with him on the field because we were on the same team in training. Just like never ever forget it. And the other one, some good ones, played in Yankee Stadium, won against our big rival. But my professional debut was on Father's Day. I came in, and for me, the support and the role my dad played in getting me to where I wanted to get to, and the unwavering, unconditional support he gave me in my journey, that was really, really special. I'll never forget that. So probably those 2 moments in a myriad of highs and lows. I think I would pick out probably those 2.
Nice. Thanks so much for sharing that. All right, guys, I want to end this on a fun note. So recently I was watching the Peyton Manning show on ESPN Plus. He had David Letterman on, and Letterman took an opportunity to present some rule changes to the sport of football. One being the defense can put oven mitts on a receiver of their choice for 1 possession. Every quarter, the goalpost is raised 5 feet. Or for 1 play, a team can run a play with all 53 members of the team on the field. So I want to hear, if you had a chance to change a rule or 2 of your sport, what would it be? And Manolo, I'm gonna let you take the first stab at this.
Oh, you had to come to me first. I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. It's tough because I'll be honest with you, I'm a kind of a snob. I think soccer is almost perfect. So there's not much I would change, but I would have to say, I think something, that we all want in soccer is more goals. So I think that if you get in a 90-minute game, if you get to 60, 65 minutes, both goals are go, right? Like, just go for it. Whichever one you score, the goalie, tough luck, dude, pick the right goal. you know, and I think that would be utter chaos. That would be a lot of fun. I think that could definitely get the popularity of the sport in America on the rise. You know, I tried to consult my wife for some advice for one of the rules. I said, you know, what would you change about soccer? She said, I just wish they were not wearing shirts. So,
Shirts and skins.
you know, that's that was another rule change that was suggested. You know, putting walls up, make, you know, no out of bounds, go crazy. A little indoor soccer type style, something along those lines. They used to have penalty kicks, used to be dribble ups from like half field. You dribble from half field one-on-one against the goalie. So, you know, maybe reinstituting that's always fun. So something fun like that, maybe.
I love it. I love it. I might have become a soccer player back in the day.
So can I just add one to the soccer thing? Because something just like sparked. So one of the things about soccer that I still don't understand, like, first of all, I don't understand why you can't use your hands. It drives me nuts. But whatever. The thing that I never will understand is extra time. It seems like they just make it up and they just blow the whistle whenever they feel like it. And I always am like, wait, there's more time. Like, how did we decide this? So what if every minute the goals get closer? Like that movie and the scene in like Star Wars. And so that way I know when this extra time is going to be done, you know, it's like when they touch or something. That's my thought.
Yeah.
That got my vote immediately.
That's good. You know,
Speed this thing up.
I would be interested in what the pay is like for whoever's moving the goals.
You know, man, that's not for me to figure out, you know?
Love it. Love it. Jesse, now that I got you unmuted, I'm picturing a rule change where ninth inning, we bring in the closer, and this is the time that I use my ability as a skipper to say, for this at bat, you got to pitch from second base. That's you know, that's I'm using it right there. What if you could change a rule or two in baseball? And I know baseball rules are written and unwritten. What would you think?
So first thing I would do is probably write down the unwritten rules so we all were on the same page about them. But secondly, so there is one rule in baseball that every pitcher, it drives them nuts. It should be deleted, which is the drop third strike rule, which is just like, if I throw a really good pitch that my catcher can't catch and you can't hit, but you swing at it, you get first base for some reason. Like, I don't know who decided that. And in Little League, that's not a rule. So that's definitely one I'd get rid of. The other thing that we used to do back at GFS actually was we played something called a tempo game. So every single hitter comes up and the count is automatically 1-1. So it's 3 balls, 2 strikes, and you're out. 3 balls is a walk. And we spend so much time in the commissioners, like they're always talking about how they want to speed the game up. And I'm just like, let's just play tempo games. Like when when extra innings rolls around, let's just speed this thing up. 2 strikes, you're out of there. 3 balls, go to first. That'll cut a lot of the game down. And then the last one is, nobody likes extra innings. Let's just do a home run derby. You know, you pick 5 guys, we'll pick 5 guys, we'll tee it up, we'll see how far we can hit the ball. Yeah, those are the ones that came to my mind.
I love it. I love it. I was wondering if you were going to say dizzy bat. You know, seeing a guy stumbling.
I get dizzy super easily though, you know. Oh, one last one. Celebrities don't throw out the first pitch, they throw out the last pitch. I saw that on Instagram. So like it was bases loaded, bottom of the 9th, 2 outs, here comes Danny DeVito, you know. So that's mine.
Yes, this is getting good. Olivia, I'm picturing throwing out a ping pong ball for 1 point, maybe throwing out a second ball if we get to kind of a tie game at some point. What would you change if you could? What kind of rule changes would you throw out there to make it a little bit more fun?
So I was thinking about this too. I was actually coaching right before this, and several GFS kids actually. So we were talking about this, and so we decided on it would be, so obviously minimal contact is inevitable in squash, but there are lets and strokes. So if you like bump into someone, there's a referee, you redo the point. But basically no referees, no lets or strokes, full contact. I think that would be very entertaining and interesting. I think what else? So I don't know if you guys have seen like American hardball doubles, but it's like a rock hard. It's a different ball, but it like bounces like crazy. And so throwing that ball in for a few rallies or one rally a game, that could be interesting. And then I think it'd be hilarious if you took the referees and put them on court with the players, kind of like in hockey, like they had to move around, because all of the professional referees in squash are like on the older side and they're not in the best of shape. So it'd be hilarious. I don't know.
That's fired.
Listen up, I'm signing up to watch all of these sports with those extra rule changes in it. So I'm gonna find a way to kind of get those put in. It was good that I learned that Little League is smarter than the MLB. So that's a takeaway for me.
Yeah, don't quote me on that. All right, I didn't say that. You said that.
That's from the mouth of Brandon. Let's leave a message for some of the younger athletes out there, particular ones back on Coulter Street. Olivia, what advice or words of wisdom would you give a current student right now?
I would just say, I feel like right now there's a lot of pressure on kids to not fail, to not make mistakes. And I would just say, experiment, take risks, try out different things, and don't be afraid to make mistakes, because in the end, that's the only way you grow. It's the only way you learn. And fortunately, I think GFS is a unique place where I think kids are already encouraged to do that. But I don't know. I feel like kids are under a lot of pressure these days to be perfect. And so I would just say to remember to, enjoy hanging out with your friends. You don't have to, have a million things on your resume at the age of 15. Like, just be a kid, work hard, and try out different things, put yourself out there, and just try and figure out what you're passionate about.
Thanks, I appreciate that. How about you, Manolo? What words of wisdom are you given? I know you're still there, but give us some thoughts.
Yeah, tough act to follow, Olivia. That's a good one for sure. Along those same lines, I would just say, be at peace with giving your best, and wherever you fall, that's where you fall, or where you end up. I don't want to say fall, but I think Michael Jordan said it best: is it's because of the shots that I've missed, and it's because of the mistakes that I've made that I am where I am today. And I echo that same sentiment. Nobody's path is perfect. Nobody's path is without adversity. And it's actually in that adversity and in that struggle where we get better and we learn. And as long as, you want it bad enough, you can do anything.
For that. Jesse, last word's yours. Any advice that you would give current athletes?
Yeah, I mean, I think that first of all, that those are awesome answers. So I'm not going to really try to build too much on that. But, there's a reason why there's only 3 of us in this group chat, in this Zoom right now. The odds aren't great to be a professional athlete coming out of GFS or coming out of anywhere. So the odds were stacked against all 3 of us pretty heavily. And we all figured out a way to make it work. And that's not without its consequences. That's not without its dedication and hard work. But I think that the biggest thing is that there's an assumption that it was maybe kind of easy for any of us. And it wasn't. I think that I had a lot of people tell me that my dream was pretty foolish and not worth it, or that it was just going to end with me, failing. And that was just motivation to work harder and be better and keep going. And you have to figure out a way to manufacture that, because you're not going to have days where people are telling you every day, hey, you're doing the right thing, you're doing great, keep going. You have to be the one that does that. And I think that all three of us had that in us.
This has been an amazing, amazing chat. You know, the entire thing has been really eye-opening and fun to hear. But those last three messages, I think, resound pretty loudly. So I want to thank you all for sharing some time with us, sharing some fun stories, talking about some tough times, but really keeping it real. So thank you to you all. Germantown Friend School, Brandon Jones, Director of Alumni Relations. This was one of my funnest alumni conversations. Can't wait to see where the next chapters in your lives are. But thank you, thank you, thank you. That wraps it up for us.